Good evening. This video is on modeling addition and subtraction of positive and negative numbers. So we're going to start by talking about something called a zero pair. A zero pair means that you have a positive 1, which is the yellow dot, and a negative 1, which is the red dot. And we call them a zero pair because one negative and one positive make 0. For example, if you owe someone $1, you borrow $1 at lunch, and the next day you bring it back. So that's the red dot. The next day you bring it back and you give it to the person you owe. That's the yellow dot. Those two made a 0. Now you owe them $0. So they are a zero pair because they cancel each other out. And if you look over here, you can see they circle together, and these two will cancel and these two will cancel. So what we have, this problem in essence is positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 2. So it's positive 4 plus negative 2. And since we have two zero pairs that cancel out, what we're left with is positive 2. So 4 plus negative 2 is 2. And we'll look more in depth at that throughout this video. Okay, now it's working. All right, so we're going to look at several expressions. There are two primary ways that we're going to model integers, adding and subtracting integers this year. One is with a number line. And for some of you are going to love this, some of you are going to hate it, and that's okay, guys. The models are tools to help you understand better. So that's what a model is. You pick the one that you like the best. You need to understand both to some degree because there will be questions with both. But pick the one you like the best to work with most often. So we're going to start with a number line. The expression we're dealing with is 3 plus 4. So first off, we're going to start with an arrow at 0 to positive 3. So now we're at positive 3 plus positive 4. So we're going to start our next arrow at positive 3 and go up 4 units, which leads us to 1, 2, 3, 4. Leads us to 7. Okay. The next way is with counters. They are typically little plastic circles with a red side and a yellow side. The yellow side is usually positive. The red side is usually negative. On paper, we often look at these as dark and or white and shaded circles or squares to indicate positive or negative. In this case, we have 3 positive counters plus 4 positive counters, and if we add those up, we get 7 positive counters, and that's our solution. If we look at the next expression we have down here, we have negative 4 plus negative 3. So this time our arrow will always start at 0, and it's going to go to negative 4, because that is our first number. And then we're going to start at negative 4, and we're going to add negative 3, and negative 3 goes to the left, 1, 2, 3, which puts us at negative 7. So with our counters, we start with negative 4, those are red, and then we're going to add 3 more negatives, which gives us negative 7. Okay. All right, so now we have negative 4 plus 3. So now we have two different signs. We have a negative plus a positive. So we're going to start at 0, we're going to go to negative 4. Then we're going to add positive 3, and when you add positive 3, your arrow goes to the right, because going to the right gets you a higher value, which we've been talking about as we were talking about integers. So we're going to start our next arrow just above the negative 4, and we're going to go back 3 units. So we start it right here, and we go 1, 2, 3. That gets us to negative 1. Here's what it looks like with counters. We're going to have 4 reds, and we're going to add 3 yellows, and then we determine how many 0 pairs we have. We have 3 sets of 0 pairs, and what we're left with is negative 1. All right, now this says negative 4 minus 3 or negative 4 plus negative 3. Here's something I want you to hear and take in. Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. Say that to yourself. Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. That's going to be a big deal. And if you can get that down, it's going to help you not to get confused quite as easily. So here we're going to start with -4 because that's where they have a start. So we go 0 to -4. And then we're going to put 3 more negatives on. So we're going to go to, oh, sorry, now we have to do the counters. -4 counters, -3 counters, and we have -7. Didn't we just see that a minute ago? It was -4 plus -3. So -4 minus 3 is the same thing. If we take away positives, we also go to the left. All right? This one, these two are the tricky ones, guys. When we're subtracting a negative, that is hard to wrap our head around. So what you need to know is that when you see a double negative minus a negative, you're going to change both signs to positive. That's the rule. So we go from 3 minus -4 to 3 plus 4. And then you can graph that and model that. This one is ridiculously hard to model. So that's part of why we're doing it this way. Because 3 minus -4 is the same as 3 plus 4. If you take away negatives, you're going to go more positive. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's in a different video. So we start with +3 because that's where we start right here. And if we take away negatives, if you think about it, you're getting more positive. So we're taking away 4 negatives and getting more positive by, we're getting more positive by 4, so we get to 7. And here we're going to start with our +3. And we are adding a negative to take away because we have to take away a negative. So we have a 0 pair, a 0 pair, a 0 pair, a 0 pair. In order to take away those 4 negatives, for me personally, this model just doesn't work in my head. So that's just how it works for me. They cancel each other out. And we get rid of those, we subtract the negatives. Sorry, they're not canceling out. We subtract the negatives. And then we're left with 7. Again, for me, that way is the way that works the least best in my head. Then we look at -4 minus -3. So we're going to start with -4 because it starts with -4 and that doesn't change. And then we have that double negative, so minus a negative, so we're going to add +3. And if we add positive or take away a negative, we're going to go back to the right, 3. 1, 2, 3. Which should put us at -1. Okay? Here we should start with -4, and we're going to add 3's. We're going to take away 3 of the negatives, which that makes more sense if you start with negative. And you get to -1. Okay. 3 minus 4. So we're going to start with 3, 0 to 3. Then we're going to take away +4 or go back to the left 4 places, and we get to -1. With the counters, we start with a +3. We add 4 negatives. We cancel our 0 pairs out, and we get -1 left because 1 red counter is all we have. Okay, and the last one I believe is 3 minus -4. Again, we have that double negative, so it should be 3 plus 4. But we're going to start at 0 and go to, don't know why that happened. Start at 0 and go to 3. Oh, because it's the same as 3. So if you go back and look at number 3, which we're not going to, but we would start here and go +3. And then we're taking away negatives, which means we're going to get more positive by 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would be 7.